Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good evening. It is 10 o'clock p.m. here in Calgary, Alberta, Wednesday night, March the 30th. I'm glad to be here. This is Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention is Up to Us. It's a 30-minute live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And chat room, just pop in the chat room open there now, and anybody's welcome to sit there and hang out if you'd like. We finished up that one PDF that we were looking at on Monday night, and that was looking at child abuse and child abuse prevention, sort of taking a worldwide look at it, a world report. And these are some PDFs that I got off of the Child Welfare Information Gateway. And there's just tons and tons of publications and, informational fact sheets and statistics and all kinds of information on that website. And, you can check out their library. They have tons and tons of publications, like I was saying, and you can type in, like they have A to Z. You can type in like letter C for child abuse, for instance, or N for neglect, and it will bring up all their publications under that particular letter, and that that are posted there. And there's some great information there. I pulled up a few of the PDFs off of there, and tonight I want to take a look at another one. And this is also sort of looking at the worldwide issue, taking more of a broader look at the whole issue worldwide of preventing child abuse, right? So hopefully, everybody's getting something out of these shows that I know that I do, because I learn, from all this material, and that's why I'm just passing it on to everybody else. It's not my material, and it's really good information. So, for anybody who's looking for some good information, that's a great website to find all kinds of good information, www.childwelfare.gov. And that's the Child Welfare Information Gateway. And they just have tons and tons of resources and information on their website. So I hope everybody will go check that out if you haven't done that already. A lot of people have actually looked on that website, because it's a great website, and they just add to it all the time. There's just new information being added into that website as new studies are done and new reports are coming out, annually, regarding child abuse prevention, whether it's North America, United States, or whether it's around the world, they publish it and put those documents into their library. So it's a great place to get some good information regarding child abuse and child abuse prevention. So thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. I'm not a counselor or therapist to say this on every show, and I'm just a private citizen paying to do my own shows. And I just wanted to be one more voice speaking out against child abuse, standing up, for child rights. If we don't stand up for child rights, who's going to, right? We have to stand up for all human rights, actually. Human rights, child rights are just on pieces of paper. They're just words written down on a piece of paper, and they don't mean much unless we're willing to stand up and protect them, right? So we have to stand up and protect children's rights. They have no way of doing that themselves. And so children, they are vulnerable. They are completely unable to protect themselves. They need protection. And so, as a society, as a group of people on this planet, we all have an obligation to uphold the child rights, human rights, right? It's so important. So, get involved where you can, right? Whatever you can do in your own capacity, right? I want to do so many things, and time is an issue, and so I figured, hey, I can be a voice, and I can speak out against this stuff, because this is really my practicing. Really, this is just a big practicing grounds for me, because I want to go speaking. I want to do public speaking, and I want to speak around the world. So that's my goal. I'd like to get involved in worldwide speaking, public engagement, public speaking engagements, conferences, and whatnot. And, you have to start somewhere. And Blog Talk Radio, what an awesome place to be able to do this. There's a lot of great shows on here. And like I had Bill Murray come on this morning on my show, which was really awesome. He got up early specifically to catch my morning show, which I thought was really awesome of him to do. And he's just one more person out here with the group of people that work with him, as a team to get the word out regarding child abuse and child abuse prevention and helping survivors of child abuse, right? So there's so many good people out here doing a lot of good work, and that's why I want it to be one more voice, right? And so that's why I'm doing my shows. And so everybody has to listen at your own discretion. I'm talking about abuse. Abuse is a very sensitive topic, and a lot of people may find the information, disturbing, right? Because abuse is disturbing. That's all there is to it. But, you to make that choice for yourself, right? You would know ultimately what's good for you to listen to. You have to listen at your own discretion and know what's good for you to listen to, right? And if you feel the show might bother you or any show like this, then you need to turn it off. It is your discretion. And young people under the age of 18, you need to have permission to listen to my shows. And the reason I say this is because I believe that children should be protected at all times. There's a chat room present. Anytime there's a chat room present, children need to know how to keep themselves safe online. So I'm basically just promoting this with young people under the age of 18. And, you know, I just don't know how young the people are who are listening to my shows. It could be some really young children listening to my shows. I have no idea where the Blog Talk players are placed around. And so, you know, I would ask if you're under the age of 18 that you have a parent, you know, a mom or dad or someone who's older, a caregiver, someone who's looking out for you as an adult who could listen to the show with you and help you make the decision whether you should be listening or not. Because I'm talking a whole lot about adult issues. There's a lot of adult material in my shows, even though it's aimed at stopping child abuse. There's a lot of adult material here, and I don't know how young the people are, so age appropriately, I don't know how young the people are who would be listening. So you need to protect yourself. If you're under the age of 18, you make sure you find out. Get the information, just type into your browser, internet safety, online safety for children, things like this. And parents, you need to learn, if you're listening, you can help protect your children by getting the information yourself on how to keep yourself safe online and also how to keep your children safe online, right? So important to get that information and learn it and share that with your children, share that with your family. Keep yourself safe, right? It's so important. So tonight I want to actually look at a PDF if I can get I'll get the title for you. This is a pretty lengthy PDF, and I'm just going to go over here and try to bring this up. And it's to do with child abuse and child abuse prevention again as well. But this is just such an awesome PDF, and I'm gonna have to pull this up again here. So just give me a second here. But this is taking a look at it, more of a worldwide look at child abuse prevention and why it's so important to get involved. You know, and why countries are governments of countries are really pushing for for society and communities, for everyone to get involved regarding the issues of violence against children and child maltreatment, right? So this is this particular PDF. I'm going to give you the title and where it came from and who actually published this. And I got this off the Child Welfare Information Gateway at www.childwelfare.gov. This is from the WHO, the World Health Organization. And I'm just going to scroll down and give you the proper title. This is called Preventing Child Maltreatment, a Guide to Taking Action and Generating Evidence. And it was posted by the World Health Organization and the International Society for Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect. And it was, I'll give you see if there's some more information here. This was published in 2006. And it's 102 pages long, this PDF. So I mean, I don't think we'll be covering the whole thing, but I just wanted to take a look at some of the stuff they had to say here. Is really quite interesting, and I think it's important that people know this, why it's important to get involved, and what you know, as a worldwide, like, you know, groups like, you know, organizations like the WHO, World Health Organization, you know, are trying to really push for, because children are suffering. Children are suffering all around the world. They always have been. This is not something that's new. But the thing is it's not something that should be happening because it's 2011, and this is ridiculous that we still haven't figured this out, even with human rights in place, even with child rights in place in many countries who have signed it, the Convention of the Rights of the Child, the treaty. You know, many countries have signed it. I forget how many now have. I used to know this stuff because I used to study international community development, which really, you know, encompassed child rights, human rights, right? And you know, we had to memorize all that stuff, but that's been a few years now, so I've sort of forgotten how many countries actually had signed and which ones hadn't signed and whatnot. But you can find that information out on just about any one of these types of websites, like the WHO, World Health Organization. Also, UNICEF is another one. UNICEF, that's the UN. That's the group that works with children, right? Around the world, right? Oh, just an awesome organization, and I think it's important to support these guys. They do some great work, and they are making some real progress. But it is going to take everyone, right? Worldwide, it's going to take all of us to make a difference, you know, and to, you know, help children. You know what I mean? They need They need our protection. They need help. They said every child has the right to health and a life free from violence. And we're on page 10 of this PDF. Each year, though, millions of children around the world are the victims and witnesses of physical, sexual, and emotional violence. Child maltreatment is a huge global problem with a serious impact on the victims' physical and mental health, well-being, and development throughout their lives, and by extension, on society in general. They said, why is this guide needed? Developments in human rights, law, forensic medicine, and public health over the last 20 years have resulted in the problem of child maltreatment becoming more visible internationally, though to a degree that is far from sufficient. The Convention on the Rights of the Child and its optional protocols, along with the Committee on the Rights of the Child, have played a major role in sensitizing international organizations, governments, and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, to the issue of child maltreatment within a broader range of issues involving children's rights. So there's work being done, but there's still so much to do because children are really vulnerable, and this is a violent world, and children need protection. And, people are starting to stand up and say, you know what, we have to back this up. Children have the right to life. They have the right to an abuse-free life, and they have a right to a good life. And yet, why are so many suffering? Why are so many children falling through the cracks? Why are so many children dying needlessly? Why are so many, these are the questions that a person might ask, with all the work that's being done, why have we not been able to stop child abuse? And I mean, these are some serious questions. And so many people that work, in the field of child abuse prevention ask these questions every day. It's like, why? And the issue is that we need everybody in on this. Like everyone. It's so important that people get involved where you can, because a handful of people can't do much, but a whole lot of people doing something really makes a big difference, right? And so they said the United Nations Secretary General's study on violence against children highlights an alarming extent and nature of violence against children around the world, with considerable attention devoted to the issue of child maltreatment by parents and other family members. And they said the study serves as a reminder that under the Convention of the Rights of the Child of 1991, countries are legally bound to comprehensively address child maltreatment. Their obligations are clearly articulated in Article 19, Section 1 of the Convention, which states parties shall take all appropriate legislative, administrative, social, and educational measures to protect the child from all forms of physical or mental violence, injury or abuse, neglect or negligent treatment, maltreatment or exploitation, including sexual abuse, while in the care of parents, legal guardian, legal guardians, or any other person who has the care of the child. And they said it is implicit here that child maltreatment is preventable. Child maltreatment is preventable. If people would stop maltreating children, then there would be no child maltreatment, and we could all go off and do something else. But sadly enough, people are still maltreating and mistreating children and abusing children, all around the world. And they said it's implicit here that child maltreatment is preventable and not inevitable, and that states have a responsibility both to reduce levels of child maltreatment through preventative measures and to provide protection, justice, and care for children who may be maltreated. The full range of measures expected of states includes mechanisms to prevent child maltreatment, including social programs for children and caregivers, and to identify, treat, and follow up known cases of maltreatment. And so they said, a systematic multi-sectoral approach. This guide adopts the type of approach across a range of sectors that is frequently encountered in the field of public health. Although sometimes referred to as the public health model, this approach is also used in other fields, always requiring the collaboration of several sectors in implementing its various elements. And so they said with this approach, action is taken to prevent the problem from occurring, to detect the problem and respond when it does occur, and to minimize its long-term negative impacts. And they said in the case of child maltreatment, this means implementing measures to prevent violence against children, detecting cases and intervening early, providing ongoing care to victims and families where maltreatment occurs, and preventing the reoccurrence of violence. And so, this is a huge, huge issue because so many children. You think about the amount of children just in the United States alone, and let's say North America, and even if we want to include Mexico, which is part of North America, Mexico, United States, and Canada. You think about the amount of children who are slipping through the cracks, who are not getting any help, who are being abused, in every way, right? And you think about, we have not Mexico so much, but the United States and Canada. You think about the resources and the programs and the infrastructure, the stuff that's been set up and put in place to help stop child abuse and to help prevent child abuse. And have we seen a reduction? No. We haven't. And I seriously, and I say this on almost every show, and it's so important because I would like for people to realize we're going to have to reach the younger generations, the ones who who have not had children yet, who are going to be the next sets of parents, because we need to reach those children and change their hearts and minds about parent-child relationships. What is a healthy parent-child relationship? What is abuse? What is healthy development of a child? What is developmental stages and processes of a child's life, and that what are the expectations that a parent might have on their child, and would they be putting too high of expectations on their child and then become frustrated and abuse their child? I mean, so many of these young children will graduate high school here in the next few years, and then they're going to go out into the world, they're going to have children, and so many of them will abuse their children. And so many of them will be caught and busted and sentenced and do time for their crime, because child abuse is a crime. I hope everybody knows this. And so many of them will actually go under the radar. They will slip by. They will abuse their children, and they will never get caught. Or they'll abuse somebody else's child, right? This is absolutely unacceptable. And I seriously, I just want to promote education and awareness. I think that the more we can promote education and awareness regarding child abuse and the issues of child abuse, the more we can reach these young people to promote non-violent ways of lifestyles. Children are growing up in violent homes where there's abuse, and a real, dysfunction, and then they go on to have children. They pass that cycle right on. And then, of course, these children slip through the cracks. So then they have children, and then the cycle just perpetuates. It continues on. And I think it's just so important that people, realize that there is really good information out there, and there's schools that are actually trying to implement. There's schools out there that are actually trying to implement nonviolence, within the schools, within the peers. There's students, who are setting up groups that are, promoting nonviolence in the schools and whatnot. I mean, I think that's great. And, it's just not nationwide. It's only in certain places, certain schools, and I think in certain districts, in certain states, right? And I think that this really should be nationwide. And I think if we're going to make a difference in this situation, just even within North America alone, we're going to have to reach these young people who are going to be the next sets of parents, right? Because honestly, the people out here now that are abusing children, are we ever going to be able to stop them from abusing children? You know what I mean? They're doing it now. So I don't know what kind of education it would take for those people to change their minds about, the proper way to treat a child and how to not abuse a child, right? So I think we need to reach the younger generations. I really do. And I think it should be mandatory in the schools. I really do. I think that there should be not just one class. I think children should have to take this all the way from the time they enter school all the way until they graduate high school, that they should have to take mandatory classes on child rearing and how to be a parent, how to be a good parent. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these children are not seeing good examples in their homes. Many of these children that are going out, who are growing up right now, who will graduate in the next 4 years or 5 years, let's say, they're being abused themselves. And so they're slipping through the cracks. Nobody's getting the child any help. Nobody's helping them out. So they're going to grow up and they're going to go out into the world. They're going to have children, and chances, not every single one of them will abuse their children, because that's just a fact. Not everyone who's been abused will pass the cycle on. Many times people who have been abused actually go the opposite way because they want to protect their children so that they don't have to endure what they did, right? So, there's some awesome, there's good parents out there, right? I mean, we know this. But so many of these children, sadly enough, that graduate around the United States and Canada will abuse children, and they will, and some will be caught and they'll be busted, and some won't. Some will just escape the judgment, and they'll be allowed to get away with with their crime. right? And this is horrific. I think we need to reach these younger generations. I really do. So they said here, this is page 12 of this PDF definition. The various sectors involved in addressing child maltreatment need to develop a common conceptual definition of child maltreatment and common operational definitions to enable case identification and enumeration. And they also need to have a common statistical approach to the problem, including standard indicators for measuring rates of maltreatment and the factors that increase the risk of maltreatment. Prevention to prevent child maltreatment. Policy and program measures addressing risk factors and protective factors need to be implemented. This is on a worldwide level. Any country who has actually signed the Convention on the Rights of the Child and the Child Rights Committee and whatnot, the actual treaty, the child rights. Anyone who has put them in and said they will back them up and they will abide by the articles and by the laws and by the rules of that, this is what they're required to do, to get, within their own countries, to get things set up to help prevent child maltreatment and child abuse, right? So many of these countries don't have anything in place, they just don't have the resources. They don't have the people. They don't have the levels of education that it takes. They don't have the money that it takes to do this stuff, right? And even in the United States, you think about all the money that's being pumped out into the United States. I saw a figure, I'd say quite a while ago, I saw this figure. I can't even remember where I saw it, but it was $105 billion is being spent annually because of child abuse in the United States. And they were saying that's not to stop child abuse, that's just because of child abuse. So I'm thinking, why not spend another $700 billion and stop child abuse? Get the programs into place, do what it takes. Because these children out here who are suffering and dying needlessly tonight, right now, I think that their little lives are worth it. And I think that, every child tomorrow who we will not be able to save, their lives are worth it. And every child who's just going to continue to be abused until they finally leave their home or, run away or whatever just to get away from the abuse, their lives are worth it, right? I mean, this is really sad. I mean, this is absolutely pathetic. And I know. I grew up abused, you know what I mean? So I know what this is like. And I mean, on one level, I could live my life and just be like, oh, well, there's not, what can one person do? Thinking to myself, how can a person even make a dent in this thing? But 4 years ago, I got off the couch. And I said, okay, enough of sitting around on the couch. I don't like what I see. I don't like what I went through as a child. I don't like what my friends went through as children. Many of my friends were abused as children as well. And I don't like what happened to my family, and I don't like what I see going on around the world. So why am I sitting on the couch? Why am I not doing something to get involved? So that's what got me motivated, was to get off the couch and get involved and do something, anything within my own capacity. We all have our own, limitations, and people can't, necessarily always donate a whole lot of money. Sometimes people just can't donate a lot of time, but we can all do something, right? And every little thing helps. Every little thing makes a difference. So I said services is another issue. A comprehensive response to child maltreatment involves putting into place measures and mechanisms to detect and intervene in cases of maltreatment and to provide services to victims and families. I mean, we have this in the United States and Canada, but worldwide, they don't necessarily, many countries worldwide don't have those types of services, right, to provide victims and for victims and families, and, to try to get once a case of abuse has been reported, there's no one to actually step in to supervise or to even help that family out, right? And even even with that going on in the United States, children are still slipping through the cracks, and they're still being abused, and they're still being killed and murdered at the hands of their parents and caregivers and whoever their abusers are, right? It's absolutely horrific. But you think about worldwide, there's the real horror, you know what I mean? Like, this is absolutely unacceptable, and that's why I'm doing what I do. That's what motivates me to do these shows, is because it's absolutely unacceptable to me that this is happening. And people say, well, you have to learn to accept your past. I was abused as a child horrifically. And, people say, well, if you want to heal, you have to learn to accept your past. It's absolutely unacceptable to me. You know what I mean? That's why I can't just be quiet and move on in my own life and just be a private person about this. This is unacceptable. No child should ever, ever be abused. And it's so unacceptable and so ugly and heinous to me that I'm willing to devote the rest of my life to speak out against this. You know what I mean? Because I figured, what else do I have to do with my time that's better than to make noise about child abuse? And I hope to go worldwide, and I hope that everybody will eventually hear my voice, and that it will sort of, promote something within them to get off the couch, right? Because that's what I did. I finally got off the couch and stopped thinking how nice it was for other people to be doing all this work, and me sitting by thinking, I don't like what I see, I don't like this, is horrible, And so we can all do something, right? We do need to all get involved, and mainly just look out for the children in your own lives and make sure that they're not being abused, right? It's absolutely horrific. This is going on in families, and people just let it go, and people just let it slide, and they don't get the child any help, and they let the abuse continue, because in that family it's normal. It's just the norm. It's the thing, I mean, that is so incredibly wrong. There's nothing right about that, but it happens all the time. Information for effective action. That's another thing that countries are actually bound to do once they sign the treaty. Mechanisms to gather information through epidemiological surveys, facility-based surveillance, monitoring, and evaluation must strengthen. The information obtained should be made widely available and used to design prevention and response interventions. So collecting information, I mean, in many countries, that's almost impossible to do. Where would they put it? Where would they store this information once they even got a hold of it? And how would they compile it? We have huge databases, over here in the United States and many places around the world that they compile this information, and it's all cataloged, and it's all properly cataloged and put where it needs to be. And many of these countries don't have the ability to do that. So having the as much good information as they can for effective action is almost impossible for many countries, because they can't even store the information that they would get, or even monitor it or evaluate it, right? So it's a huge issue. Advocacy. Efforts to prevent child maltreatment should include activities to raise awareness among decision makers and the public of the need for investment in evidence-based prevention programs. Campaigning efforts should also focus on the adoption of nonviolent social and cultural norms, especially as these relate to parenting. And for prevention and response work to be effective, 4 vital processes need to be observed when designing intervention. And these are to define the problem, to identify the causes and the risk factors, to design interventions, and to disseminate information. And so that's what they're talking about next. And this is just page 13 of this 102-page PDF, but it's just an awesome PDF. So we'll continue this on Friday night, and we'll take a bigger look at this advocacy portion on defining the problem, identify the causes and the risk factors, design interventions, and disseminate information. Right. And I hope you will check this out. This is a great PDF. Lots of good information on here. I'll give you the title again. And I got this off the Child Welfare Information Gateway. That's www.childwelfare.gov. And this is from the WHO, from the World Health Organization. And you could probably find this on their website. I wouldn't doubt if you just look on the WHO's website. You could find this information as well. And it's called Preventing Child Maltreatment, A Guide to Taking Action and Generating Evidence. And evidence is to actually proof that it's working, right? Generating evidence that it's working, that the models are working, that the programs are working, that it's making a difference, that it is impacting children's lives for the better, and that we are in families' lives, right? And so that's just the issue. We have to at least become educated regarding the issues of child abuse, and really promote within your local communities. Get involved, you know what I mean? And if you feel inclined, get involved nationally with some national groups. There's so many to get involved with. You know what I mean? Dreamcatchers for Abused Children is just one. We're a 501c3 not-for-profit, or licensed organization. But there's so many. There's Prevent Child Abuse America. There's Child Safe. You can't even name them all. You know what I mean? There's just so many. So pick one that just reaches to your heart and speaks to you, and get involved. You know what I mean? Be a voice, right? There's RAIN. There's so many awesome groups. There's so many. I can't even begin to list them off. I'd have to do a whole week's worth of shows to list all the stuff off that I know about. That a lot of people know about, that are doing some great, awesome work, right? But I would say, do what you can within your own capabilities, and you know, with your own special sort of you know, touch, right, to make a difference in this for these children, right? They're counting on us, and they, you know, these little children that are going to lose their lives tonight. There's no way that we can help them, and tomorrow night, and the next night, next day, and the next day. But we've got to make a difference in this, and it's got to happen this generation. And I say, why not let it be this generation? You know, that's why I'm doing this. I have nothing better to do with the rest of my time here on this earth as long as I'm here. And I thought, yep, why not? You know what I mean? There's nothing that means any, you know, that could mean more than this. Would be to try to make a difference for children out here. You know what I mean? Who are being abused and who are suffering. Like, this is absolutely unacceptable to me, and that's why I'm going to continue to do this, right? So thanks, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. I'll be back on tomorrow morning, one child abuse survivor to another, and then on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio tomorrow night here on Blog Talk Radio. And have a great evening. Take good care of yourselves. If you need something, you can get a hold of me on Blog Talk Radio. You can send me a message or on Facebook. And Monday, April the 4th, I've got Ray Luskin coming on my show, and we're going to talk about why survivors don't disclose the abuse and why they may not tell that they were abused, and talk about some of the drawbacks and some of the benefits from actually, you know, reaching out and getting help. Right? Ray Luskin is a survivor of child abuse. Ray Luskin, she's an awesome lady. She's been on my show quite a few times, and I like to consider her my friend. And she's just such a good person, and she has such a good heart, and she really wants to help. You know, she's trying to help make a difference in this mess for survivors of child abuse, adult survivors of child abuse. So I hope you will tune into that. So thanks, everybody. Take good care, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.